Hi, this is Margaret Byrd and welcome to Color Quest. And sadly, welcome to the last days that I'm here in Urubamba, Peru. I've had an incredible time for several weeks now learning from a local dye master. One of the surprising things of coming here was that I became very inspired by some of the leaves. They have tons of eucalyptus here, which are invasive, but there was something about the leaf shape that really struck me, and I know they're great for echo printing. So I'm going to collect a few eucalyptus, and there are some really beautifully shaped other kinds of leaves here. I don't know what they are, but I'm going to collect those, and I'd like to test out doing an echo print, but this time on paper. Let's go grab some of those leaves and get back to the studio. So when I went foraging up above Chilca, I noticed, and I have noticed, that there are tons of eucalyptus trees. And up in the mountains, they are so clean. Down here along this dirt road, the leaves have been a little bit dirty. So I grabbed some different shapes up in the mountains, and now I want to grab another kind right here. So this is the road that I'm living on, and how about that view out there? Wow, just love it. So this shaped leaf struck me. And these are closed up. I don't know if they close up as the sun is setting, but I'm going to take some of these and add them to my echo print. Just love the shape. And I actually made some monoprints of them and really, really loved them. Here's ones that are not closed up. You can see what they look like. You can also see how dirty they are just from the dust of the road. So I'll take a few from this tree and we'll add those into our echo print with eucalyptus. All right, got a good stash. Not too many, just a handful, but I don't know why. I just really loved it. Kind of reminds me of Fern from Home. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm looking forward to heading back north, but anyway, let's go get those back and wash them off. Now last week I used tin can for the iron tannin combination to have that chemical reaction, and the can was super strong. I also dipped it in a little bit into iron that was a little bit less, but the Chilca leaves were very light, and that's what I used last week. This week I am going to be using Chilca again, but I'm also going to be incorporating some of those other leaves. Instead of putting the leaves down just natural, we're actually going to soak them in iron water. So that is going to completely change everything about what the print looks like. And I thought that might be something fun that we haven't yet really tried on Color Quest. So let me show you the supplies I've pulled together so that we can get ready to make these echo prints. Start with the leaves. These are the leaves that I picked up last night. I washed them, but they still have a little bit of dirt on them. I'm not that worried about it. I'll wipe them a little bit more before we use them. I have the Chilca, which is from last week. This makes a yellow, and you can shift to a green in the dye pot. When they print, they're really yellow in their print. Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll get them to green if they're going to be soaked in iron. Then I have two different kinds of eucalyptus. Now, I have tried both of these myself in projects while I've been here, neither of which brought red. And you know, there are like 700 kinds of eucalyptus, and only some of them bring red. But I have really responded to this shape for some reason. It's been very inspiring to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and use those. And then there's just some nice difference in terms of shape. And I've got some baby ones here too. So it's kind of fun. I've also left the stems on because I'm gonna go ahead and use some of that as part of this. Then I have my paper. I've got two different kinds. I've got a heavier 300-pound watercolor paper, and then I also just have some pretty inexpensive and very thin mixed media paper. Typically I use watercolor paper when I'm working this way, but let's throw in some of this. I don't have enough of this. I'm running out. We're going to need to treat that paper, and we're going to treat it with alum. So this is the alum rock. I will crush it up and we will make a hot bath, let it cool a little bit, put the paper in, let it soak for, I don't know, maybe an hour, who knows. Then I've got my iron, and this is how I'm going to make my iron water. I'm not going to take it out of the bag, but you know it. It's that green powder. And I've already made an iron bath and I've got it stored in here. So I want to just use that because, you know, recycling is a good thing. But I'll talk to you a little bit about how to quickly make iron water. I've got my gloves here. Then I have my string, which is what I'm going to bind with. Also repurposed, as you can tell by the color. It's been used many times. I've got two different dowels here. I've got a wood dowel, which you can tell by the color has already been kind of used with iron, and a PVC pipe, very useful. So I'll be using those two. And then I've got just some heavyweight cotton. And the reason we're going to use that is because we will wrap this as our barrier, not between the paper, but around the paper on the dowel. And that will help keep it all locked in and also give us space to bind so that we're not creating that string pattern on the paper itself. So those are all of our supplies. So let's get to prepping our paper. Now, normally when I'm going to mordant fiber, I will weigh it, and then there'll be a percentage of alum used, I don't know, kind of in the neighborhood of 10%. Since I'm in the spirit of here, I don't have measuring things, I'm just gonna wing it. And really, I'm using paper, so I don't think I'm gonna need that much alum. I will simply crush it down a little bit more and heat up some water, pour it in to make an alum bath, and then put the paper in. I have found that if the paper is too hot, it can, well, it's just harder to work with paper and hot water. So a nice, you know, warm, maybe a little bit hotter than that, and I'll let it sit in that until it cools down. And then that should be a good enough amount of time to at least give it a little bit of extra bond to that paper. Okay, the paper is soaking. That thin paper is really thin. So I'll go in there maybe once or twice and I'll flip it, separate the paper, make sure that the alum bath is getting in all the bits and pieces. Now, I wanna talk just a minute about the iron, since I'm not gonna show you how to make iron water or an iron bath here. You've seen me make it several times on Color Quest. You can go back to previous videos to learn more about iron water. Using the ferrous sulfate's just easy. You literally need like a 1/16 of a teaspoon to make a bath, and you do very similar to what I just did with the alum. Heat the water first and then add it to a bowl that's just specifically for iron water because it will stain it. Then I add the iron. Stir it up and it's ready to go. Really easy. So imagine that in your mind. Now this iron water has been sitting around for a couple of days. It's totally viable, but it does darken, so it'll look kind of murky. And I'm not worried about it. The strength is there, and I'm putting leaves in. So I'm going to select the leaves that I think I'd like to work with, and I'm going to put those into the iron water. So as I'm sitting here picking the leaves and trying to dust off more of that dirt from the leaves I picked right out front, I'm remembering a few things I wanted to share just in general. Remember that Echo printing is a practice, and I think that in general, a lot of times it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. It takes a lot of trial and error. So just come into it with a really open mind and a really sort of exploratory, experimental way with curiosity. Those are some of my favorite words, and I think that you'll be much happier. I did a whole slew of echo prints when I first arrived here, all different kinds. I was mixing and matching different fibers. And honestly, every single one of them was different, and I didn't know what to expect. And I was using plants I'd never used before. And so as I'm looking at these, I don't know if those leaves out front are gonna hold any color, but I do know that the shape will translate in some way. They can act as a resist to maybe the iron and alum combo. And certainly I've practiced now, where I've been working with these particular eucalyptus, and I know that they are not the red ones, but I'm okay with that. You can do some research and find eucalyptus that are great at producing that really vivid red color. And we've now seen Chilca from last week. It's a pretty light printer. I think it will be greener with the iron dip, but I don't know. So really just have fun with it is what I guess the message is, and don't hold too hard on expectations. I find that life is a whole lot happier if you just come into it with wonder. While I was picking the leaves, I found this leaf. Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh, nature, why are you so beautiful? Okay, into the water these go. Okay, leaves are soaking, paper's soaking. Now I'm going to cut my cotton cloth that's going to be like the barrier over the top that I can then close the paper in. So it just has to be big enough to be able to wrap around the paper so it's covered. And then I can roll it up beautifully with string and not worry about there being an interaction there. So I'm just going to wing it and cut some heavier base cotton in order to do that. The leaves and paper have been soaking for over an hour, and I've got the cotton cut, and then I just dampened it just so it's easier to work with, I think. I'm gonna be super careful with the paper. Paper is gonna be fragile somewhat, especially that lighter paper because it's wet. I'm gonna be pulling it straight from the alum bath onto the pieces of cotton, and then I'm gonna start building. And I'm going to do one on top of the other. And unlike in previous videos where I put something as a barrier in between, I'm not going to do that. So we'll see what kind of prints we get on both sides. It's going to be fun. Let's go. right, I've got my 2 bundles. You saw that I put paper, leaf, paper, leaf, paper, leaf, and then I had leaf on top. So I have 4 pieces of paper and 4 leaf bundles. Now I can just roll them. You will notice that my wooden dowel, I have a piece of plastic over it, and the only reason that is because it's gotten so discolored from iron. I don't necessarily want additional iron, so that's just something I'm doing to protect the prints. I don't think it would make a difference, but I figured I have the plastic, might as well. So let's roll it up. They are all wound up and ready to go. Remember to try to do them as tight as possible. If you watched last week's video, you know that I do not have a steamer here. So I just improvised and used something to raise it up off of the water. So I just put a little bit of water in, but I didn't put enough in last time and I burned it out. I boiled off. So I'm gonna try to avoid that this time. So we'll put them in. We'll let them go for about an hour and a half, and I will rotate them at least once throughout, and then we'll pull them out and see what we get. Gotta add some water. Okay, it's time to unwrap them. Light is going down, so hopefully we'll get them unwrapped and visible before it gets dark, because, you know, we're always fighting the light here. Was fun. That was the watercolor paper, and so many times I really like the ghost print, and I love the ghost print that turned out just on the piece of cotton. Look at this. I like really subtle things. It's just part of what I am drawn to, so that to me is gorgeous, and I love this one. And you know what? I feel like this unknown plant that I said I wasn't sure may actually have some red in it. I'm gonna have to look up and see what it is, but I really like the way that looks. There they are, dried overnight. I don't have a way to flatten them, but I thought I would just show you what they look like dried. You can see that certain patterns were very strong on both sides. I noticed that this is probably the ghost print of this, or vice versa. But this plant was really strong, and the Chilca with its flower was too. So I actually ended up with 2 prints of the same. I love this, but it is very faint. But if you flip them over, again, you can see the mirror image of this and this. I'm a little sad that it ripped. But anyway, that's okay. And then over here, same. That really overpowered everything else. It really bled through, so you can't really see the other piece that was there. And this one's nice. I like it with the sticks. And again, overwhelmed. So really there is a dominant side that worked nicer. Here's the watercolor paper. So these are a little less watercolory, actually. They have a little stronger print. And this side was, I think, the ghost print, but this one was really clear. You can see lots of patterning and variation. There's that swirl. Love it. And again, this one looks really good. So this is the Chilca leaf, and also the Chilca leaf with the flower. I like how that one turned out. And look at that purple. I really love that purple, which was part of one of the eucalyptus leaves. Again, faint, but not bad. It's so pretty with the dots and things. So, the more simple design. There's the opposite. Again, I'll turn it around. You can see it's like a mirror image right there. And then this one is a little better. Has a little bit of this coming through, but that's actually kind of pretty. It looks ghostly. And oh, I guess there you have it. Also, mirror image there. So I'm pretty happy. Maybe next time I would do it, I would put some kind of barrier between, so I would only have design on one side. But for the first time doing this, I'm pretty happy. So what do you think about that paper echo print? I was so happy that that tree back there actually brought in some sort of purpley reds. Really beautiful. Had to be a little bit more careful with that super thin paper, but I might actually like the prints on that better. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, tomorrow I am leaving this beautiful place, and I want to thank all of you for joining me on these past 4 weeks as I've done all kinds of exploration and learned so much. And I want to thank Maria, the dye master, for sharing her wealth of knowledge and being so generous. It was such an incredible experience. Now, guess what? I'm not going back to the United States. Nope. I am moving on from here. My artist residency actually has been about 1.5 years long. It was a virtual residency for a long time with an end in country studio time. Here was an educational and learning portion of it, and now I'm moving on to Mexico. And I will be there to finish the last weeks of my residency, not in Oaxaca this time, but rather in the town of Puebla. And I've never been there. So it's a lot of studio time. We'll see. Maybe there'll be some urban natural color that I'll be inspired by. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see when we get there. I am always surprised with what catches my natural color eye and inspires me to explore a little bit more. Again, thank you for being here, and please, if you know anyone who would be interested in natural color or how it's being used in Peru, send them this way. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I always answer. Anyway, I better get going. I've got to pack up and catch a flight. Time to head to Mexico. I will see you on the other side of the equator next Friday. Have a great week. Oh my goodness, it's the first kitty I've seen since I've been here. Hi, kitty. There's so many dogs here.